And hello, everybody. Welcome to FSU Coach Live. My name is Tim Backhurst, and today's guest is Calyn Ohman. She is the women's head volleyball coach at Pensacola Christian College, also a student in our program. We'll talk about that in a little bit, Calyn, but if you wouldn't mind, just give us a background of how you got involved in coaching volleyball.
Well, sports has been a major part of my life ever since I can remember, just because my family was so active in trying to get involved in many different things, whether it was a neighborhood wiffle ball game with the neighborhood kids or getting involved in team sports. I did start playing volleyball when I was in seventh grade, and I just fell in love with the sport. I fell in love with learning more about the sport, and I just knew I wanted to coach it someday. So that's what I studied physical education and then started right after I graduated from college coaching at high school level, and then found myself at the college level. And it's been an exciting ride. I've been doing it now, college level, for 6 years. So it's been great.
How do you, quote, find yourself at the college level? It's not just something where you just decide, hey, I'm going to be a college coach, walk into a college, and there you go. What allowed you to become a college coach?
Well, it's been interesting because I never left where I grew up. So I think that's part of how I found myself here. I coached 7 years at high school level and stepped away from it because I wanted to be able to focus on my children a little bit longer. And then when I found out that the college coach retired, I thought, well, maybe this is the next step, and put my name in for the recommendation. And here I am. So that's how I found myself here.
Interesting that you mentioned stepping away from coaching because of your kids.
Yeah.
It's something I think that is very relevant to coaches, particularly in the current societal world that we live in of go, go, go. That was a brave decision to walk away from something you love for your family. What led to that decision, and how easy was that decision to make?
It was very difficult. And that's one of the challenges of being a coach, is that if you are going to raise a family, you have to know how to have that balance. And my uh, first child was born 6 weeks before volleyball season started. So my husband had to take an extra role, in a sense, to be able to help out with all of those situations. Thankfully, I had family around, so that helped. And then when I was expecting my second child, I thought, do I want to go through that again? And she would have been probably 3 months when I started coaching. So it might have been a little bit better, but it was a little overwhelming to think about that. So I wanted to take the time to go to step away. My husband and I talked about it for a long time to see if that's what we should do. And it was good to be able to take some time to be a mother, to be a wife, because after 7 years of coaching, it does take a toll.
I've talked to some coaches who say that there is no such thing as finding a balance. But you just said you're finding the balance. How do you find balance to stay organized and to some extent stress-free, given we know that coaches are under a lot of pressure all the time?
Yeah. I think the key is you hear the phrase a lot, find your tribe, for those who help you out as much as possible. And that's where my family steps in a lot. I would not be able to coach at a college level if it wasn't for my parents and my husband's parents to be able to do that. And honestly, it wouldn't be possible if my husband wasn't on board as well. It takes a lot of communication with your family members, with your husband, with your children, and making sure that you're being honest with them with the schedule, being honest with them about what is happening. And I think also getting them involved is key. My kids love my volleyball players. They're like older sisters to them. And I think it's been very helpful to make sure that that is how we provide that balance in making them be involved and communicate with them.
Yeah, involvement of your children in your program is a really good idea. Are there any specific things where they are involved, or do you give them assignments to do while you're coaching? How does that work?
My son loves to be the ball boy during the games. He's pretty tired after games because we have a very large arena, and so he runs all over the place to be able to go get the balls. And in practices, they come sometimes to be able to help shag the balls. They love being able to get involved that way. We also try to have our girls over quite often at our house, and so they're helping prepare the meals. They're helping them serve them. So we've tried to find different ways to be able to get them involved.
Great. You've been in college level almost as much as you've been in the high school level.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the differences that you've seen coaching in high school versus coaching in college?
On the surface, I don't think that there's much of a difference because you're still trying to build a relationship with those girls. It does not matter what level you're on. You have to make sure that you're building a relationship and in your coaching position. The difference is the level of learning that they come from. In high school, they really don't know that much about volleyball if they haven't been exposed to it. In my situation, they don't really get exposure to volleyball until their 7th grade year. And so you're teaching them from the basics of what they should be doing. In college, you have to take what they've already known to be able to build on that or kind of break some bad habits and be able to create new ones. So there's a little difference. I think just even for college level, the tempo of the game at any sport is going to be different depending on what level from high school to college you're at. So a few differences in the skill level wise and the tempo, but on the surface, you're still trying to build relationships with those.
Okay. Question then is, how do you build relationships? And I hear it a lot. Yeah, we've got to know our athletes. How do you actually build those relationships so that you can really work with them at their level and understand where they're coming from?
Yeah. So that has been a challenge to me because I would say that in high school, I did not try to build relationships. But then towards the end of the high school and getting into college, I saw the major importance of being able to build a relationship with them. And I think it depends on the group that you have, and you have to be able to know what the individual, how to be able to respond to each individual on your team. So finding out their likes and dislikes, finding out more about their family, more about their friends, providing opportunities to be able to meet with them on a regular basis, to be able to talk to them, to see how they're doing, making sure you show them that you care about their individual person, not just that they're on the volleyball team.
You have a unique position to many because you're at a private institution. And I'm curious what differences you experience to maybe what a typical coach at a D1 or D2 school that is publicly funded or federally funded has. Do you recruit? Do you have scholarships? Are you full-time coach? Well, tell us a little bit about what your role is.
Yeah, so we are a little different in that we're a part of a Christian athletic association, and we do not offer athletic scholarships. So that has had a challenge in and of itself. There's some athletes who come to the college looking for those athletic scholarships because that is what they have in mind. However, we can build our program to be able to pull those recruits in. Recruiting has been a challenge for me. That was not my focus the first couple of years as a college coach, but it's really starting to be something that I've really started to look into a little bit better and tried to do a better job of that. We do have recruiting opportunities that we go out to be able to see others. We constantly in communication, email, calling, and stuff like that. But it is probably not even on the same level as a D1, D2, even probably a D3 school would be. We do have some limitations still, regulations like a D1 school, but not anything comparable to theirs, but similar. We the timeline, we still have timeline. We can only practice for so many weeks out of the year, like a D1, D2 school would. So it is similar, but then it's not as intense, I guess I would say, as a Division 1, Division 2, even Division 3 school.
So do you have students coming to Pensacola to play volleyball for you, or do they come to be a student and then find volleyball in the process?
Yes, to both.
Okay.
We want to be able to make sure that people are coming to Pensacola Christian College because that is where God is directing them to go. I have told recruits before that I don't want you to come here just for volleyball, because they may find themselves in a kind of a miserable situation where they're disappointed, they're discouraged, because for whatever reason. So we do encourage them to make sure that this is where God is calling them to be able to continue their education and to be able to go on to whatever God is calling them. And then we can talk more about volleyball. But we're starting to grow to be competitive in our association. And I think that's what I'm mostly excited about. We have worked really hard. My assistant and I have worked really hard to be able to build a volleyball program. We just won our regional championship, so that was great, and placed 4th in our division nationally for the first time in our program history. So we're starting to build for athletes to want to come here to be able to play volleyball. And if we can get them here to play volleyball, and then we can influence them to go on to what God has called them to do, so that they can influence other people as well.
Yeah, if an athlete comes to FSU, for example, to play volleyball, they may have thoughts about professional play in Europe or something like that. They have name, image, and likeness opportunities, et cetera. So really, for you, what is your purpose for having this volleyball program, given the fact that you're competitive, you want to win, but at the same time, you're not out scouring the country for the best players that are available? Where is that balance between winning versus development of the player as a person?
Right. So most of I've never had a girl so far in my 6 years go on to go play professionally, but they have gone on to be able to coach volleyball. And they want their girls to do well as well when they go on to coach. So that expectation of still being competitive in our program can be passed down from the player, and then from a player as they become a coach. One of the words that we use for our culture is excellence, and we should be doing everything with excellence. And for our mission, that is what we should be doing. Doing the controllable things well. And if you can compete well, then you're putting forth the excellence in the program.
We do have a comment from Xavier. He says, I find that connecting on a personal level and finding commonality helps build that rapport. This is talking about what we were a few minutes ago. I also find that not being afraid to share about personal life helps humanize me to the student athletes. I think that's a big one, showing that you have struggles too, and that you are facing things that might be difficult.
Right. And I think that's another way that we connect with our family as well, because I'm not just a coach. I am a coach and a mother and a wife. And you mentioned earlier, I don't think I answered the question if it was full-time or part-time, but I am part-time coaching. I do another job on campus as well. So there is a balance, and it kind of helps me relate to them because they are student athletes. Some of them are working. We have a work assist program on campus. So they're working, they're taking classes, they're being involved in athletics. We encourage social life. There's Christian service community projects to be able to do on campus as well. So being able to relate all of that together, because we're all going through it at the same time, really does humanize the coach.
Mm-hmm. You've been successful, especially recently, and some might provide a picture of coaching being just the best job ever. And in many ways it is, right? I love coaching. It gives me joy to coach. but it's not all roses, so to speak. Can you give us some examples of maybe situations as a coach where you've had to make difficult decisions or just struggled, so that we understand that coaching does have its challenges?
Yeah. I have to say first that coaching is my dream job. That's something I've always wanted. But that doesn't mean that it's all rainbows and unicorns, as the saying goes. There are challenges, especially with having a family. There are challenges in making sure that your children have somewhere to stay while you're on road trips, making sure that they are packed, ready to go with all their clothes and their homework done and everything like that as they're going off to school. My kids are still elementary age, so there's lots of different things that they're trying to get involved in as well. Some of the challenges, because I try to build a relationship with these girls, is staying on top of that relationship. So I tried to find out more about their grades, find out more about their projects. Are they staying on top of studying for their tests? So juggling those types of things can be difficult. And I think any coach would say the late nights from road trip games, home games, all the different responsibilities that go in part of it is a challenge. But if you can find a schedule, if you can find the right personnel to be able to help you with those things and being able to delegate them to certain people, that although it is a challenge, it can be overcome if you're organized and willing to work hard.
You just talked about some of the challenges, and time management seems to be one of those. And here you are in our FSU Coach Masters program. And somebody might like me, if I didn't know you, would go, well, why are you doing that? And I had this discussion with an athletic director this week of just the students in our classes are incredibly invested because they take this very seriously. They're almost all of them are already coaching, such as yourself, yet continuing to get education. And I'm curious, what made you decide to do that?
So when I first started coaching at the high school level, I honestly thought I was it. Like, I just know everything about volleyball. I just know everything about coaching. It's going to be great. And then I quickly learned that I don't know anything. It was definitely an experience trying to find a way to be organized, to find a way to have time management. I created so much stress for myself because I was trying to stay on top of so many things with having that mindset of I already know everything. So one of the things that drove me to be able to continue my education is that realizing I still have a lot to learn. And if I'm going to have that perspective of being able to teach my athletes to be able to go on to be able to coach or teach or whatever the situation is, then I need to be willing to be able to learn more. Eventually, my goal is to be able to teach coaches on a college level if the Lord opens that door. So I wanted to be able to gain some experience and be able to gain more knowledge of how to better influence others to be coaches as well. It is a time management struggle, but again, with open communication, with good schedule, it's been working.
Well, Xavier's been busy on the chat. He talks about the challenges, balancing personal life and family, keeping the line between professional and relationships with athletes, parent involvement or lack thereof, and then personal problems that kids present in their own family lives that you may be their one support system in place. And then he said he's got one more semester in the master's and finished. Almost there, Xavier. And we do it because we love our sport and we love our kids. Yeah. Absolutely.
Right.
I'm gonna set myself up potentially for failure here, and just ask you, in taking the master's, I think you're about halfway through, right? Probably somewhere around there. What are you learning that is allowing you to become better as a coach?
Well, I'm learning a lot. and I think I think I've mentioned it to you before that I there's so many things that are being brought through this master's program that I'm like, oh, I want to do this, this, and this, and this, and this. And then I've had to take some time to be able to kind of piece it out to as a big picture to be able to decide what I'm going to work on next. I think the biggest thing that has helped me is to be able to know how to set goals, not just for me, but for my team, because we can teach them to be excellent in all things, but then where does that go? How can we make sure that they are attaining certain things, tangible things, to be able to see how they're reaching those goals and becoming better, not just volleyball players, but also becoming better people? How are they using those things that they're learning in school and in volleyball to be able to help them in their future? And it's been really interesting in two of my classes so far that has come up, and different perspectives, different ways to be able to reach those goals and to be able to set those goals. So I think that has been very helpful to me for the program so far.
Good. And if you're watching, by the way, if you have a question for Calyn, just put it in your chat box and we'll get it to her. One of the questions I had is, you're at a religious institution, and in many ways that puts you on a pedestal because you're judged differently. And as a coach, we have a huge responsibility to behave and act in a certain way. And hopefully that's in a positive role model way, that is in a Christian college, a Christ-like way. And yet at the same time, we can be very competitive. We can be emotional. Things happen during games where we sometimes don't always exhibit that. Do you feel the pressure of being at a Christian institution? Is there pressure there to kind of monitor that yourself and adhere to it at all times, as opposed to maybe a secular school where maybe some of that bad behavior is kind of waved away?
I don't think that there's any pressure for that, because building my relationship with Christ comes first. So if I'm building my relationship with Christ first in my daily personal life, then that is going to affect my mind, which is going to affect my heart, and then going to affect my actions. So if I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing as a child of God, then that is going to be seen through my actions. Do I mess up? Yes. Do I yell? Yes. But I can take those steps to be able to make it right. But then just knowing that if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing with my relationship with God, then it's going to come out in my actions in the correct way. So that's why there's no pressure. God's grace is amazing, and I don't feel like there's a lot of pressure because of that.
And I think you mentioned it there, of just taking ownership of the fact that you do make mistakes and rectify those mistakes, as opposed to just brushing them under the carpet, so to speak.
Right. And that is something that I've had to learn, because in high school, when I was coaching high school, I don't think I would have done that. But in college, I have said, oh, my bad, I'm really sorry, and then moved on several times.
And just my final question, unless somebody has any others, just looking at your own career and your own experiences across high school and college, what advice do you have for those who may be in your own program or interested in becoming better coaches? What have you learned that you would like to pass on?
Have a growth mindset. I know that's something that we have talked about in our master's class. Be willing to learn more about the game. Be willing to learn more about your association, whatever age level, group level that is. Just be willing to learn. I don't think anybody arrives at any point. John Wooden has said, you keep learning. So I think that is one of the major things that I would pass on to anybody. Just be willing to learn.
And I lied, because I do have one more question, and it is, if somebody does have a question for you and they're watching on our podcast or YouTube at a later point, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
That would be through my email address, and it would be best for it COHMAN at pcci.edu.
So I'm just putting it on the screen here. Maybe. There we go.
Yes.
UHMAN at pcci.edu.
Yep.
Well, Calyn, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. And I do hope people reach out. And of course, good luck with the rest of the season.
Yes. Thank you.
Just a reminder, everybody, that we try to interview a guest every couple of weeks. So be sure to like and subscribe wherever you're watching from. But on behalf of myself, Tim Baghurst, and Calyn Ohman, thank you so much for watching.